It is the end of June 2024. Up until today, I've held several keynotes on different stages this year. I have around 30,000 followers on LinkedIn, and my book, Visible Women: How to Boost Your Career Using LinkedIn & Co., is available in bookstores, including Amazon. When I attend events, often people approach me saying things like, "Hey, you're Christina, I know you from LinkedIn." And I receive messages almost on a daily basis, mostly from women, telling me how my book, my work, and my visibility helps them grow their own visibility. My name is Christina Richter. I'm the founder and CEO of the Personal Branding Institut. Today, I have a strong network and an awesome community on LinkedIn who know who I am, what I do, and who support me in it. Today, I'm visible, and my visibility fuels my work and everything I do. But that wasn't always the case. Around 8 years ago, nobody knew me, and that was mostly because of my own doing. I've been in the communication business for 20 years, and the first 11 years I worked in different corporations, putting other people, mostly my CEOs, in the spotlight. I steered the company through the good times and the bad times, and boy, there were bad times. I was in the financial industry in 2008 when Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. I made sure that my CEO said all the right things at the right time. Interestingly, my CEOs were all men, because most CEOs in Germany are men. So I helped my CEOs saying the right things at the right time. And I'm pretty sure I left all my CEOs with a pretty stellar reputation and a strong visibility. However, my own visibility was not existent. Not even my colleagues in my companies knew exactly what I did. They did not know that I was the one orchestrating the visibility, that I was basically writing all the statements and all the articles for my CEOs. Why did they not know it? Because I never spoke about my work. I thought my work would speak for itself. What a misconception, I can tell you. And I also thought, and that is even worse, who wants to hear what I have to say? And that even went so far that when I got invited to speak at a communication conference, I declined because I thought, who wants to hear what I have to say? After 11 years of corporate work, I lost my job. And that literally changed everything. Most importantly, it changed my perspective on visibility, especially female visibility. Because at the time, I got to work with a female leader, and I helped her turning from a hidden champion to a visible leader. She was the first woman I ever worked with, and that project was a literal eye-opener for me. Because I realized in German media and on relevant stages, there were, and in many industries pretty much still are today, mostly men explaining the world to us. And I didn't understand that because I knew a lot of really cool and talented women who were experts in their fields, but they were not as visible as their male counterparts. The invisibility of women really started to bother me. My own invisibility really started to bother me. So this fueled my decision in 2016 to not take another corporate job and not yet make another male CEO visible, but I went full-time freelance and I focused on the visibility of women. Suddenly, I worked mostly with women. And suddenly, I stepped into visibility myself. Wasn't easy, I have to admit, but I knew if I wanted to push other women into visibility, I had to walk the walk myself. So I did. And I've helped hundreds of women over the past 8 years to step into visibility themselves. What I know now is that a lot of women have negative beliefs about visibility and their competence for that matter. Remember that sentence, who wants to hear what I have to say? I've heard many, many women saying the same sentences over and over again. I want my work to speak for itself. I'm not sure I'm good enough to go out there and speak. Who wants to hear what I have to say? I believed those sentences, and I've met many, many women who did and do. And maybe even some of you here in the audience have at some point thought one of those sentences, or even more, and maybe even said them out loud. Let me tell you something. These sentences keep you invisible. And what is even worse, these sentences keep you powerless. Why am I saying that? A couple of years ago, I stumbled upon a Native American proverb. Those who tell the stories rule the world. And it makes total sense, because we hear people telling stories, and if we hear those stories over and over again, we start to believe them, and we tie the stories to the people, and that becomes reality. Now think about this. When we look at our economy and politics, if those who tell the stories rule the world, and it is mostly men holding positions of power, I wonder, is the lack of visibility one of the key factors why women do not hold more power positions? I believe it is, because there's one thing I've learned over time. Visibility is power, and women holding themselves back because of those negative sentences I've said before fosters an unequal distribution of power. And not only that, I believe visibility is an important path to gender equality. Let me take you on a little journey back in time, because one of the key factors why women have these negative beliefs in the first place is what history taught them how they should behave. Let's take a look at what I call the ultimate metaphor. What is the traditional and historical division of responsibilities? Men hunt and provide, women gather and care. And this view has been seen by scientists for centuries. They thought that the early humans had this general division of labor. And this belief didn't only stick to academia, it became a common belief in society. Hunters and gatherers have become the ultimate metaphor for men and women. Men build sophisticated weapons, go out and kill the evil animals and bring home food. Women build baskets to go on their gathering sprees for berries and nuts. And this division of labor has created a disadvantage for women because they were always seen as weaker than men. It's 2024. We don't need to hunt for survival anymore. But still, these stereotypes are pretty much active in today's realities. Is it time to face the facts and just accept these roles? Or have we been made to believe a myth by those who tell the stories and who have the power? I have recently stumbled upon research from Seattle Pacific University, and they have examined hunter-gatherer groups. Some of them active today, some of them active 9,000 years ago. And there have always been hints that this hunter-gatherer theory might be false. The researchers from Seattle Pacific University came to the conclusion that there is no such thing as a general division of labor. Women have always been hunting. They have always been hunting, but they used different tools and different strategies when they went hunting. And interestingly, women also went hunting while pregnant. And once the children were born, they simply took the children in a backpack along with them. Now, when we think about this, women providing and taking care of the family, sounds familiar, doesn't it? If the hunter and gatherer theory has been false from the beginning, how can it still be so present today? I personally believe it's because there are beneficiaries, those who benefited from this division into providers and caretakers. Men. And I hope I'm not losing all the men here in the audience. Stick with me, because keep one thing in mind. What I'm telling here today concerns all the women in your lives as well. From your mothers, your sisters, your female cousins, your female co-students, all the way to your girlfriends, at some point your wives and your daughters. For me, the hunter and gatherer theory, potentially being wrong but still upheld until today, is proof that narratives create realities. It's the stories we hear over and over and over again, we start believing, and we put them into action, and they become a reality. Remember, those who tell the stories rule the world. Now let me challenge you a bit. I assume that many of you can answer the question, who invented electricity and the light bulb, very quickly. Thomas Edison. But can you name the world's first computer programmer in an instant? It's Ada Lovelace. I studied coding in university around 20-something years ago. This woman never ever appeared in any of my lectures or my books. I only learned about her way later when I dove into inspiring women in history. You probably also know the name of the person who invented the first car, Carl Benz. But do you know the inventor who invented the technology that we today use in Wi-Fi, GPS, and Bluetooth? Her name is Hedwig Eva Maria Kiesler. She was better known under her Hollywood actress name Hedy Lamarr. I know this movie, Samson and Delilah. It's a classic. I've seen it at some point. But I never knew that she was the person who invented the technology that allows us to work remotely, to drive around without maps, basically tools and technologies that we use on a daily basis. Or maybe some of you recognize this woman. Maybe some of you have seen the movie Hidden Figures that came out in 2016. This is Katherine Johnson. She is an African-American mathematician who worked at NASA, and she played a crucial role in the space missions in the 1960s. Now let's move a little bit closer in time. Probably all of you know this man and can automatically connect his company to his name and his face. Bill Gates, Microsoft. The interesting thing is that a lot of people also think about young Bill Gates sitting in his garage, starting out his company 30 years ago, I think. We also all recognize Steve Jobs. And the interesting thing about Steve Jobs is he has mastered branding and storytelling to that extent that when people hear the name Steve Jobs, they don't only think about Apple, but they see a charismatic man on stage in a black turtleneck sweater, jeans, and white sneakers. Now, there is not that many women on that level or in this position of power, but there are a few, and I want to mention 4 of them that I think you should be aware of. This is Belén Garijo. Belén Garijo is the CEO of pharmaceutical company Merck. She is the only female CEO of a DAX company, DAX 40, meaning the other 39 CEOs are all men. Pretty special, isn't it? Then there's Mary Barra. Mary Barra has been the CEO of General Motors since 2014. I had to look that up because I wasn't sure. When I hear General Motors, I think automotive, I think male-dominated industry. I would assume they have a male CEO. For the last 10 years, Mary Barra was heading General Motors. Then there's Melanie Perkins. Melanie Perkins founded her startup at the age of, I think, 25, 26. It has recently been valued at $26 billion US, and it is one of the most amazing and popular tech companies in the world. Melanie Perkins founded Canva and democratized design. You don't have to study design anymore to create amazing visuals. And then there's Mira Murati. She's the CTO of OpenAI. She had a brief moment of international fame when she replaced Sam Altman in his CEO position for, I think it was 4 days. Then she went back to being CTO, but I call her the godmother of ChatGPT. Narratives create realities, and women in positions of power are considered special. To keep them special, there's very limited space and visibility for them. Now, if women want to change that, they need to claim that space, and they need to become visible on their own control. Because remember, visibility is a path to gender equality. Now, the world has changed. Those stereotypes have softened, but they are still there. Because the narratives persist, and because the narratives persist, the structures persist. Dear women in the audience, building visibility is not about proving you're as competent as men. It also doesn't mean that it's not about increasing your competence. It is about changing the narrative. And only if you become visible, you can participate in changing the narrative. Dear men, we don't want to take anything away from you. We basically just want you what you have. We just want the same. And to be very honest, we could use every ally we can get. For me, it all comes down to visibility and taking visibility into our own hands. And with visibility comes responsibility. So I also believe it is our responsibility to fight inequalities. Gender equality is just one of the many goals. So if I could have a wish for you to take home, I would like you to take these 3 things home with you. Claim your space and become visible, but always reflect if there is enough space for everyone and if it is your turn to claim the space, or maybe somebody else's. If it's your turn, claim it. If it's somebody else's, help them and support them. Be sure to let others go through the door that you've just opened. No matter how hard it has been to open that door, be sure you're not the last one to go through it. Be open to question narratives and change them. Just because we've done things in a certain way for the past centuries does not mean it is the right way. It just means it was the right way for some of us, mostly for those who told the stories. It is 2024. I am using this stage today, I am using my visibility to share my mission, challenging gender equality and making more women visible. Now it's your turn. What is your mission? What is your message? There are a few women in the audience, so I assume that there are probably Adas, Hades, and Catherines among you. I've seen incredible things happen when women become visible. Use the stages that you're being offered. Take the space and become visible. To all the men in the audience, remember what I've just mentioned may not concern you, but it concerns all the women in your family or in your surroundings. Make sure to become a female leaders advocate. To all the women in the audience, claim your space and become visible. Do it for yourself, do it for gender equality, and most importantly, do it for all the other women that will follow you into visibility. Because remember, those who tell the stories rule the world. If we women want to rule the world, we need to start telling the stories.